Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Known Classics. This is episode number 2213 and Doubleshot number 2107. Now, the thing with these two characters for their traits, they both have one big thing in common. You want to know what that is? The fact they both made a debut in the 1990s. The first one made his debut in 1991. And the other one was in Actually, this one was 1990. Alright. First we got is Bloodshot Salvation, Book 3, The Book of Revolution. I thought this was the last trade I had to review for this one because I thought I reviewed Volume 2, but turns out I did not review Volume 2. So, you're probably thinking, why did you just review Volume 2? I had this one ready to go. So this book contains get this, the last 3 issues of this series. You're thinking, really? A trade that releases 3 issues? Yes, this is the final story of the series. Mostly because they do wrap up pretty much going this series mostly since the previous story arc. Where you have Ray going after Omen. Where he basically rescues his daughter. And of course, in this book, his wife, his girlfriend Magic, meets Punk Mumbo. Yep, Punk Mumbo's in here. Now you might be thinking, Punk Mumbo? Yeah, even I think it's quite strange. Of course, you also see Colonel Kipshaw from the pages of X-Men of War. Well, I guess the reason why she's here because of stuff related to... Because he's part of Unity, which, by the way, the group is still very much active. There's also a flash forward here to the series... To the year 4002, which is basically from the Rye book. Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly why. Let me take a look at Punk over here. That's a good close of her. Yeah, for some reason, whoever draws her, she looks slightly older than she normally looks. Yes, Punk Mumbo, a woman deals with magic. Appearing in a book that deals with science. Yeah, even you probably read this like, wait. Punk Mumbo, appearing in this book. Yeah, even I find this kind of weird. So he works with also his other Bloodshot guys from the previous series. And he eventually deals with Omen. Oh, and the other book in here is actually the prologue. Yes, the prologue from, was a Free Comic Day issue, was X-Men of War 2017 Free Comic Day Special. Of course, you also have the guy that's red suit as Ray Father. Yeah, he's kind of like the future stuff. It's kind of weird that this book basically deals with the timeline of Ryan here, but they do it with Omen, and he's like, you can't do it approved by Congress and the president. He's like, and he tells them basically like, okay, fine, just stay away from me and my family, and we'll leave you alone. Simple as that. And it looks like the guy agrees, and the book ends. It's pretty good. This book, give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. And I would normally, because I would thought though I would have basic with this book that I would basically, finish up reviewing the series, but apparently there's one trade left. But we'll talk about basically like, here's the strange thing about Valiant and Bloodshot. They released a total of 3 books for this guy since this book wrapped up. You're thinking, 3? Seriously, 3 books? Well, one was with the series, and the other 2 are ongoing. First was a mini-series, and it was Bloodshot Rising Spirit, which was 8 issues. The next one after that was basically a series. I did read the first trade that collected this run. It was Bloodshot Volume 4, and that was 1 issue longer than this book. 13 issues. And then you have the most recent book, Bloodshot Unleashed, a book that has not published an issue in, oh my gosh, like, I looked it up. Apparently, the last issue came roughly 7 months ago. 7 months. Not since October of last year have we had an issue release of the series. Oh, here's something very interesting though about the series. There is no trade that collects this thing. Nope. Volume 4, yep. Rising Spirits, yep. Bloodshot Unleashed, nope. For some reason, Valiant has not bothered to release the rest of the series. Yes, that has been a big problem I've had with Valiant. I keep bringing this up, but I'm going to continue to bring it up here. Valiant is hesitant to release comic books. Like, the only thing I've really seen lately from them, like this year alone, I've seen maybe 4 comic books in 5 freaking months released. You know what has been released this year? Let's see, you have one issue of Book of the Dead, a Colin Bunn book, the first 2 issues of a new X-Men War book, and that's it. That's all Valiant's released just this year. Like 3, 4 comic books in the first 5 months of the year. Valiant, release more comic books. I mean, are you having difficulty finding staff to basically write your freaking comic books? You can't even get these books out on time? Like, I've heard, it is something quite interesting, I was talking about this. Apparently there's not much interest in Valiant. Here's the reason why. Because you are not releasing freaking comic books. If you release comic books, people might be interested in you. Do that, please. Yes, just please. And also, can you have a book that lasts more than 12 freaking issues? Because if you think about it, if all the Valiant books published since the book company came back in 2012, there is maybe 4 or 5 comic books that lasted more than a year. And those books were like X-Men of War, the Remedy run. There was the first Ninjak run. There's some that lasted for a couple years. Excuse me, some only ended after 12 issues. For no reason. I've never heard of the reason why. Like, what was it, low sales? You could say maybe because of the series. It's possible. But who knows? Valiant is like doing like a communications blackout or something because they're not communicating with anybody. Like, has anybody seen any solicits released by Valiant this year? Honestly, I haven't. Like, here's a question for everybody. When was the last time Valiant Entertainment has released any solicits? And I do mean any. For any month this year, or last year, or the year prior. Last time I remember seeing solicits for Valiant was maybe early 2020. Yeah, that was last time I saw solicits. But I haven't seen solicit list released in about three years. Yeah. Now this book came out in, let's see, this was in, I think 2017, wasn't it? Yeah, roughly like 2018 actually. Yeah. Now we go back 10 years prior to that book. We had the first book of Cable, written by Dwayne Swarzinski. Now, believe it or not, the next Comic Corner will be a Bloodshot book by the same writer. So basically two series by the same writer. Now, this book is the start of Cable Volume 2. This is a run I really want to get back into. I remember kind of reading this when this book came out. Like, can you believe when this book came out was back in 2008? Yes, 2008. And if you're curious, though, how many years this book published? 24. Which is actually longer than his last 2 volumes released. Yeah, the last 2 runs were not that long. Like, the Gary Duggar run was 12 issues. And I believe the run that came before that one, I think that was like, I'm trying to think. I think that was about 15 issues, I believe that was. Yes, because for some strange reason, the book kept changing writers every time they complete a story arc. This book, now, here's the thing about this book. It's basically Cable. Now, if you like the original Cable books from the 90s, this has a similar flavor to that. Now, of course, I should mention that the artwork here is done by Eric Labti, who is a very good artist. Now, this is basically spinning out the events of Messiah Complex. This comes immediately afterwards. Cable goes to the future with this baby, who grows up with this whole book. Yes, and the reason why they go to the future, because they're on the run from a man who shot Charles Xavier in the head. That man is Lucas Bishop. Yes, Lucas Bishop, a longtime X-Men character who's been around at this point for a little over 20 years. Actually, about 20 years now, because I think of his debut, because he's from the timeline of Day Future Past. That's where he's originally from. He made his debut in a story called Bishop's Crossing, which was based... Now, he is a Scott Lobdell character. I did not talk to Lobdell about this particular thing when it comes to Bishop, because I kind of forgot to talk about him. But I don't know how he felt about Bishop turning into a bad guy. And here's the thing, though. This whole book is basically where you have Cable and Hope Summers on the run from Bishop. The entire run. That's the plot that you have for this whole thing. We have a series of adventures to happen over the course of periods, and that's the main plot thread. And over the course of this book, we see Hope Summers grow up. At first, she doesn't have a name until a little bit later. Now, of course, the one thing I do appreciate the way he remembers is that Cable's got the techno-organic virus, something he's had since the 80s, when he was a baby, because they retconned it later on that he was actually the same baby, though technically Cable is a Rob Liefeld character. He was created by Rob Liefeld, and though they retconned later, he was the same. This is a similar character to a character Claremont created just a few years prior to that, when he made debut in 1986 in I think it was King X 201. Yes, so throughout this book, Cable goes future, of course, hiding in the future from Bishop, who's chasing after him. The Bishop also is with one arm. That was due to not particularly this book per se. It happened just prior to this one, where he lost his arm and he has to get a robotic replacement. And by the way, he has his arm the entire run. Now, mostly put, you have Bishop just acting like a police officer because, believe it or not, prior to coming to the present day, he actually, was like this. Now, they arrive in the year 2043. So, because they left '08, so they went in the future about 35 years, which for Cable is not that long of a trip. And the whole thing was just going deeper and deeper in the future. So we have basically him working with this woman who he does return a little bit later on in the book. Because we also have here, we have Hope, little baby Hope, where she's got pink hair for some reason. Yeah, this thing was kind of weird. Like, you have her basically artistically depicted with pink hair, and Cable gets wounded. Now Cable is basically running around with this baby with him. So, by the way, the story is called War is Baby. Despite the fact that Trey is called Messiah War, and there was an event not long after this called Messiah War. Yes, seriously. Oh, by the way, they do explain here in the flashback how the heck this happened. How Bishop lost his arm. Well, he got his arm bitten by Predator X. And then he got the arm basically cauterized by, of all people, Sunfire. Yes. Sunfire, this look here that he has, that was something that Apocalypse did him just a couple years prior to this one. And he uses Sunfire's flames to cauterize his wound. Yes, seriously, that's basically what he did here. And he stole his nuclear arm from Forge Rifle. Yes, Forge. So basically, he spends his time chasing him. Yep. He also has this thing where no one can touch me but him. Okay. Also in his future, he runs into Old Man Cannonball. Yes, Cannonball is here. Not sure how the heck he's still alive. And you might be thinking, okay, where's his wife? Where's his son? That wasn't published yet. That was something Hickman did a few years after this. So don't blame Dwayne Straczynski for not including this book, because this was released in '08. Him hooking up with a woman, having a girlfriend who he later married, that happened about 5 years after this. So that has nothing to do with this at all. So it is interesting the fact that he's here. Oh, in case you're curious though, this contains the first 5 issues of Cable Volume 2. And if you're curious though, this volume, it did last for 24 issues, but it did publish 2 more, even after the book was concluded. There was a reason for that, because they decided to call it Deadpool and Cable 25 and 26. And here's the strange thing, though. 26 was actually released a year after 25 was. Yeah, I don't know why. It just basically devil working with Cable again. But this book is really good. I love it. I gave this book a 9.5 out of 10. Yep. Now, this book came out during my personal favorite eras of comics, which is basically the period of 2004 to 2012. Excuse me. An era I call my first era. The second era is from 2013 to 2015. Well, basically any of Secret Wars. That second era. The third era is from the end of Secret Wars until about, I think, Secret Empire. That's the third era. I would say the fourth is probably from 2018, which is basically from Legacy up until present day. Yeah, that's basically where we're right now. Though we could say we're in another era right now, but who knows. But the reason why I like this era so much, because this is an era, in my honest opinion, since I'm reading comics, this was an era that produced a lot of really good comic books. That Marvel was having a good high at this period of time. And do you also was publishing really well this period of time? DC. DC put out a lot of really good stuff at this period of time. Well, somewhat anyways. There were some books that knew too well. Marvel, I think, had a better handle on how to basically put out their comic books. I would say after Avengers Assembled, that's one of the books for some people that got a little bit better. I heard that the sales for one of the books, New Avengers in this period of time was Marvel's like top selling comic book, along with you also have really good books in this run. In this era, you have New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis. You had Captain America by Ed Brubaker. You had Iron Man by several different writers. Thor came back in 2007, written by JMS. Amazing Spider-Man was going through rotating door. Originally, it was JMS for him when I started reading comics. And then it became rotating door writers for a few years before Dan Slott took over in 2012. The X-Men books. When I started, it was Chris Claremont writing the books. When he was actually his third era in comics. Third era in the X-Men was him on that book. And it was Ed Brubaker, Karen Gillian, Matt Fraction. And those are the writers at a particular period of time. Wolverine, he went through a handful of writers. I think when I started, Rucka was wrapping up his run for the book. And then you have Mark Millar's Enemy Estate. And of course, it runs by Jason Aaron, Mark Guggenheim, and Daniel Way. You have Deadpool written by Daniel Way this period of time. A lot of really good books. If you ever get a chance to read them, check them out because they're really good. And this is definitely one of the good ones. And there's no book in this era that I did not enjoy reading, because you could just read these books and you could definitely tell that the writers actually give a damn. And also, here's something though, you don't have any woke crap in these books. There's no character stupidly out as gay at this period of time. You have good storytelling. Which I was good in my book anyways. Though this era did all spring with the rise of... The only negative I think a lot of people have from this period of time is the rise of the crossovers. Lots and lots of crossovers. Crossovers like House of M, Secret Invasion, Civil War 1. I know I've got a lot of order, but these like big ones. Dark Reign, Siege, Chaos War, a lot of events. Marvel loved their events this period of time. But despite that, there's a lot of book period of time. That's just my opinion anyways. Okay, so that's episode. Next, I'm doing one more comic corner, and then I'm going to straight to case closed. Okay, next video. Bye. Excuse me.